Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the match. The board meeting is proud to present Board Game Battles. For today, in the blue corner, we have our veteran of cooperative games, Pandemic, and introducing the opponent and newcomer, Horrified. Let's go to the tail of the tape. You can see Pandemic has age working against it, but has Z-Man Games in its corner, which never hurts. While we look at Horrified is coming off a remarkable rookie year and looking to gain more traction with Ravensburger as its publisher. Let's go to a general overview of each game. Now taking a look at these games individually and what they are offering. Pandemic at this point is a staple of the board gaming hobby and what some would say the king of cooperative board games. In Pandemic, viruses are spreading across the globe and it is your job to take a team of experts to maneuver around the globe board, removing little colored cubes that represent different viruses. Along the way, you'll be gathering up cards with colors on them, hoping to get enough of that color to turn them into a research station to cure and eventually eradicate that disease. Players win when all 4 viruses have been cured, or they lose when either 8 or more outbreaks occur, if you run out of disease cubes and need to put one out, or if you run out of player cards and need to draw more. That is a quick general summary of Pandemic. Let's move on over and take a look at the newer game, Horrified. Horrified came onto the scene in 2019 and was pretty widely available right away in the mass market. It definitely made some noise that opening year and was compared to its elder Pandemic almost immediately because some of the similarities. In Horrified, players are playing as a group of heroes trying to save the town from invading monsters from Universal Studios, like Dracula, the Invisible Man, and Frankenstein. There are 6 different monsters and you can combine them any way you want since you will be choosing a few each game to play against. Players are traversing the game board, picking up different colored items with number values on them, all while trying to not get hurt by the monsters and also saving random citizens that show up before they are killed by the baddies. Each monster is defeated in a different, unique way. Players win if all monsters are defeated, or they can lose by either the terror level reaching the skull, or if when you need to pull a card from the monster deck and it is empty. Let's now go to the battle and see who comes out ahead. First, let's take a look at aesthetics. Pandemic doesn't have a bad look, but it can be a bit bland. It is just a big map that you put out different colored cubes out and move around the board with colored pawns. Whereas Horrified has some pretty good thematic artwork on the board and on the cards. The monsters are actually miniatures, and all the players and citizens have standees. I'm definitely giving this one to Horrified, and to me, this was the one category that was very easy to decide. Next, let's look at replayability. I think Horrified has a ton of replayability with how you can put in whatever monsters you want and mix and match them. Plus, if you want it harder, just add one more monster, or if you want it easier, just take out a monster. I think base game Horrified has way more replayability than Pandemic, but Pandemic has a huge unfair advantage here that there are 3 different expansions now for this game, and Horrified hasn't come out with one or even announced one. Come on, Horrified, get on it. I'm still giving this one to Horrified, but just on the base box. But if you would add the expansions to Pandemic, Pandemic would blow it out of the water. Next, let's take a look at ease of play. Each game uses action points, where each player gets so many actions each turn to try and accomplish all they can, and afterwards you will be pulling cards from the deck. In Pandemic, you will pull a couple cards off the player deck, and if you get an epidemic, you have to resolve a few steps, and then after you will pull more cards off the infection deck and follow those steps. Horrified streamlined the deck a lot and has one deck you pull cards off of, and you only pull one card and resolve that card in order from top to bottom. So the deck system Horrified uses is simpler, but in Pandemic you are just worrying about the disease cubes. In Horrified you will have monsters moving around and each monster is defeated in a different way. Then plus you have villagers that will pop up and you have to guide them to safety. I believe Horrified is more streamlined, but I'm giving the advantage to Pandemic just because there is just more going on in Horrified. But both of these games are good at just getting you into a lighter game, and this was very close to me. Now for the strategy for each of these. To me, these games are on a pretty even ground as far as strategy. In both of them, you are going to have to plan out each player's moves to hopefully be as efficient as possible, and then dealing with whatever the AI system throws at you. Both involve some luck. In Pandemic, there will be the randomness of the cards, and Horrified will have the randomness of the items drawn. I'm going to give both games a nod on this one since it feels so even to me. Taking a look now at the theme. The theme of each is almost of a horror one, Horrified being provided by monsters, while Pandemic is just done with viruses, which can hit home a bit nowadays. Pandemic to me really doesn't have the theme pop as much, as I look at it as just a Euro game, pushing around cubes and centering on mechanics. Where in Horrified, I feel like I am actually up against the creature from the Black Lagoon, or I am trying to stake Dracula through his heart. So Horrified wins in this because I enjoy the theme more, and I believe it puts you into the universe more than Pandemic does. So all in all, these are both fantastic games, and if you watched my top 50 games list, both made it onto that list. But I'm giving the win to Horrified. I think Horrified, in my opinion, is the new king of cooperative board games, and I highly suggest it to anyone. And that is not saying Pandemic is old news. I still really enjoy Pandemic and all of its different variations. In fact, I have 6 different versions of Pandemic. But Horrified has just really become one of my favorite games and is usually somewhere in my game bag for game night, just in case someone wants to play a cooperative game. At this point, I have played it over 20 times and still am not sick of it. I just really want them to come out with an expansion for this to pump even more life into it. So Horrified wins this board game battle against the classic Pandemic. That will adjourn this meeting and wrap up this first board game battle. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day, and take care, everyone.